Next on our agenda is Senate Bill 102 to eliminate daylight savings time. This is by the Senate State Affairs Committee, and Senator Kawasaki is the chair. He and his staff, Joe Hayes, are here. If you would place yourselves on the record and introduce your bill. I think it's timely.
Good afternoon. For the record, Senator Scott Kawasaki, representing Fairbanks, Fort Wainwright, and Badger.
Joe Hayes, staff to Senator Kawasaki.
So I'll read a brief just sponsor statement and pass this over to Mr. Hayes. But many of you are probably feeling as tired as I am. We just went through daylight saving time, the observation of which was on Sunday. Senate Bill 102 would exempt the state of Alaska from the practice of daylight saving time every year. Daylight saving time traditionally is observed between the second Sunday of March and the first Sunday of November. So while daylight saving time has been observed in Alaska since 1966, this bill would aim to switch Alaska to an observation of permanent standard time. This would benefit Alaskans mentally and physically, and also benefit Alaska's economy, and no longer require Alaskans to every year change the clock twice. Arizona, Hawaii, Puerto Rico, Guam, and some of the island territories have exempted themselves already from daylight saving time. And many other states, including Washington and Oregon, our nearest neighbors, have introduced similar legislation just this year. I'd like to thank the sponsor of the other bill related to standard time, you, Madam Chair, for recognizing some of the beneficial health issues related to daylight saving time. And I will just say that the American Academy of Sleep Medicine does agree that daylight saving time switch is very increases risks to physical health, mental health, and well-being, and public safety. And adopting either a permanent standard time or the permanent daylight saving time, I think both have advantages for the state of Alaska since we're so far north. With that, I will pass it along to Mr. Hayes.
Through the chair, Madam Chair, would you like me to read the sectional or go to the presentation?
Let's do the presentation, please.
Thank you, Madam Chair. Okay. So, again, Joe Hayes, staff to Senator Kawasaki. So this is just a brief history of daylight savings time, how we ended up here and where we are. So Germany was the first country to implement daylight savings time in 1916. U.S. followed suit by repealing daylight savings time a year later. During World War I and during World War II, many countries temporarily implemented daylight savings time. By 1965, time zones were erratic across the U.S. Extra hour daylight reduced energy usage of electric lighting and heating, and all non-Western countries have since moved to standard time. And again, the negative effects of changing clocks, as the senator said, the shifting sleep hours twice a year disrupt the circadian rhythm. It reduces the cerebrovascular and cardiovascular health, and increases traffic accidents and workplace injuries, and increases substance abuse and mental health disorders, circadian misalignment, and the American Economic Association estimates the social costs of $275 million annually. Daylight savings versus standard time. So in 1974, we had an energy crisis. We had a 74% approval and then it's 42%. And then energy was no longer saved for incandescent lighting. So then federal laws, Arizona, Hawaii, and 5 territories went to standard time. So by going to standard time, we have more light in the morning, which improves physical and mental health, metabolic disorders, depression, cardiovascular disease risk decrease. Permanent standard time is supported by many groups also, the American Academy of Sleep Medicine, the European Sleep Research Society, the Center for Economic Policy Research, and it doesn't require congressional amendments, which I'll talk a little bit about later. So in this graph, you can see how standard time preserves the morning light, and permanent daylight time makes sunrise too late. Just a little aside. And on this slide, you see most school starts at 8 a.m. And when you do daylight permanent, without permanent standard time, you have 9 a.m. for daylight savings time and 9 a.m. for standard time. That presents different problems. And then you can see how the standard time aligns to the sun. Daylight savings time forces earlier waking. And that's that for the presentation. And I wanted to bring up a thing that we were under the impression that President Trump was supportive of changing daylight savings time, but in an article from March 6, President Trump stated that he would not be pushing for an end to daylight savings time or to make daylight savings time permanent, suggesting the public was too evenly split on the issue. And I quote, "It's a 50-50 issue, and if something is a 50-50 issue, it's hard to get excited about it," Trump told reporters in the Oval Office. "I assume people would like to have more light later, but some people want to have more light earlier because they don't want to take their kids to school in the dark. It's something I could do, but a lot of people like it one way. A lot of people like it the other way. It's very even. And usually I find when it's the case, what else do we have to do? Most Americans will turn their clocks forward 1 hour on Sunday and start daylight savings time. So we don't think that a national bill will be enacted because the president who did support one now sounds like he's not supporting one. So with that, we're open for questions.
Thank you for that information. Questions from the committee? Senator Dunbar.
Thank you, Madam Chair. This is less a question, although certainly Senator Kawasaki is welcome to respond to it. The northern parts of Alaska are so different, and in the interior as well, from the rest of the country, that it almost seems like this debate doesn't even really apply, right? I mean, there are parts of our state where the sun goes down in December and doesn't rise again until January or February, and even in the interior, you have very long daylight hours in the summer and very long periods of darkness in the winter, and so for me, for Alaska, I don't think it even really matters the debate between whether you want extra time at night or you want extra time in the morning. The thing that impacts us the most is the changeover. And unless I'm mistaken, perhaps you can respond to this, Senator Kawasaki, but the changeover, the health effects of that have just been well categorized and are extremely negatively impactful on our population. Would you say that's a fair characterization, Senator Kawasaki?
Yes, through the chair, Senator Dunbar, that's in fact the case. There are multiple studies, and we've left you with some materials on those studies that show that just simply the time change of either having to wake up earlier and not get enough sleep or have the extra hour is the worst and most disruptive out of the entire situation. And Alaska, of course, being as far north as we are, even in Juneau, we're gaining 5 minutes of daylight day. So in a week, we've got a half-hour time difference, and you'll notice that when you woke up on Sunday, it was pretty dark, and then also on Sunday evening, it was pretty light out in the evening times. Well, in a week, we won't even notice that because that would be a complete half-hour shift in the way the sun is impacting the state of Alaska. And it's even more pronounced the further north you go, so Anchorage is even more so. And Fairbanks is gaining 7 minutes right now per day of sunlight. So absolutely right, because of our northern distance and where we are on the globe, daylight saving time has very little impact on us either way.
Follow up, Madam Chair?
Yes, follow up.
So if I'm doing the math right, then Fairbanks in 9 days will have as much impact as the springing forward, or whatever you want to call it, with daylight savings time.
Through the chair, 9 times 7 would be 63 minutes, or just over an hour.
Yeah. Thank you, Madam Chair.
Thank you. Seeing nothing further from the committee, thank you, Senator Kawasaki and Mr. Hayes. I know this is an issue that my constituents feel very passionately about, so we will have have you back at a further future hearing, Senator Dunbar.
I was saying it's an exhausting issue.
Thank you, Senator Dunbar.